Hello and welcome to the sports show on this Thursday evening. There is no EFL action this weekend, but we still got plenty of sport to talk through. Nevertheless, with England that are playing in around an hour's time, and with lots of different sport as well in the northeast region and everything else. We'll have a few songs, and as ever, it is the preview show. As you may not have heard for the last show, there will be no show on Monday for the results show. That one will not be on because I am at my graduation. But the preview show will be back again on Thursday evening, and then the results show will be on at 7 to 8 on a Monday night, as usual, for all the sport and everything like that. Lots of results coming in, and the results show will be back then. Also, if you haven't checked out the website and you haven't checked out the sports page as well that I've got going on there's a story on Lewis Hall, who got a call up to the England squad that we'll go through, and also on Owen Mason, who just signed for Gateshead as the starting keeper as well. So all them things will be going on that site and ready for you. So we'll start off with the England game, and the game that is happening in very short time. And we'll talk about England. Can they get back to that sort of performances that they have before Thomas Tuchel? It's the last two games that Lee Carsley has as interim manager of England, and we'll talk about what it will mean for these last two games, and then where Thomas Tuchel can go after that. Obviously, a lot of controversy this week with 8 players dropping out the England starting, in the squad, and Harry Kane was very disappointed with that, and he said how disappointed he was with the fact that you've got to go for country over club. We'll also be talking about that and everything else in between. A lot of National League things and football going on this weekend as usual, and also the women's football as well. So England tonight, what is the starting lineup like? Well, there's been a few changes to the starting lineup for England. As I say, 7:45 kickoff. And in there it is Pickford, as you'd expect. A back four though of Lewis, Konsa, Gehi and Walker. With a midfield two, this might surprise you, of Jones and Gallagher. And a front four of Gordon, Bellingham, Madueke and Watkins. Well, what does that mean? That means that has happened because Trent, Cole Palmer, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, Bukayo Saka, Declan Rice, Aaron Ramsdale and Levi Colwill have all dropped out, which is why he was so disappointed. In their replacements is Morgan Rogers, getting that call up after his brilliant start to the season. He joined in January from Middlesbrough, that you might remember Morgan Rogers. Jared Bowen, Jared Braithwaite, Thiago Livramento, the Newcastle fullback, another Newcastle fullback, so both of them in the squad, and James Trafford all in the squad as well. And what does tonight mean? Well, it means that England are looking for revenge over Greece. Obviously, that humiliation in Lee Carsley. Well, we didn't know it was Lee Carsley's one of his last games then, and he tried to get all the talented players into one squad, and well, it didn't work because Greece sit first in the competition. England done second. Greece 3 points ahead of them, winning every single game and only conceding the one goal. England will also have to watch out for that Greek striker Vangelis Polivdis. Might have butchered the pronunciation of that, but he's a 25-year-old striker from Benfica, and he scored a brace last time at Wembley, and he was a real handful throughout the whole 90 minutes. The Greek team actually for that game averaged around 28 years of age, whereas the England one was only just under 26. But for sure, Greece will soak up the pressure and try and hit them on the counter-attack, and that's exactly what they did at Wembley. Is there a chance for all the English players to impress? You've got a lot of different players, and a lot of players that won't get minutes, you would have thought, when the regulars return, and that will need to impress the likes of Madueke. Will he start? Probably not. Jones, will he start normally? No, I don't think he will either. And also an opportunity for the likes of Lewis Hall and Livramento, players like that are trying to get themselves into the squad. Well, in Lewis Hall's case, let's talk about him and the fact that he had he didn't really get a chance at Chelsea, even though it was Thomas Tuchel who actually gave him his debut when he was only 17 years of age. He then got caught through Roman Abramovich and Todd Boehly, and then wanting to get all the Chelsea youngsters basically out, and that's exactly what happened. And he went to Newcastle on loan with the option to buy. Only played 18 times for Eddie Howe's men, and then he's impressed and he got and made the switch for around £30 million plus add-ons, and he's been a mainstay for Newcastle this season. He's been really good this season as well, often deployed as a central midfielder under in his academy days actually, and then Thomas Tuchel had him as a left centre back, and that is why but how has he got into the English team? Well, he's got into the English team because there's no other left backs essentially. Luke Shaw, he's always in and out. Will he be back now? Amarin's in charge of Manchester United, remains to be seen. But there has been no real left backs. The problem for England, well, positive and a problem, is the fact they've had too many right backs. They've had Trippier, they've had Trent, they've had Walker. Lots of different players that can play on that right hand side. But for some reason, Luke Shaw has been the only left back that's been able to manage to get a starting position and get himself as one of the first names on the team sheet. Chilwell has done it at times, but hasn't looked too comfortable. Trippier is actually covered at left back and done alright. He played against Croatia in the Euros and he actually did alright there. But is he a natural left footer? No, he's a right footer, and that means that it will slow the play down. That left hand side is one that England will have to sort out. How will Tuchel play? Well, Tuchel likes to play with a three at the back. Does that mean that Maguire will continue alongside Stones and one other, maybe Konsa, maybe, or will Walker get pushed into centre-back position, possibly as well? But Lewis Hall could definitely have that left wing-back spot. He's very similar to what Ashley Cole was in his days at Chelsea, marauding down that side, but he's got more of a quality. He likes to play inverted at times if you've watched Lewis Hall, but something I do want to see more from him is that attacking output. I want to see that improved. He's only scored twice in his Newcastle career so far, both coming against Manchester United, and he's got 1 assist so far this season, but he should have more than that. And if he wants to improve, he said in his pre-match that he looks up to Luke Shaw, and one of Luke Shaw's biggest positives is the way that he drives forward and gets that left-hand side, making sure that there's a bit of variety there, but also making sure that he leaves that left-back spot but make sure there's an extra man on the overlap. And that's what I think England could really do well with, to be honest. Against the Greece side, that, to be honest, they've done really well this so far. And that game at Wembley was a shock, there's no doubt about it. Despite Greece being top of the Nations League, it was a shock that England lost that game, and no one was really expecting them to lose that game. It was all, what can Carsley doing after he beat Ireland, and everyone was thinking, well, look what he can do here. But Greece, as I said, they did a job on England and they stopped him. England also play Ireland on Sunday, and that'll be an interesting game considering Ireland have only got 1 win. We'll come on to them later, and as they host the other team in the group. But so the other question for England is, are you happy with Thomas Tuchel as the manager? Now, he's only the third manager that's from abroad after Capello and Sondre Eriksson as well. And did you want an English coach? Well, English coaches, what were they really out there? There was obviously Eddie Howe from Newcastle, and a lot of Newcastle fans will probably watching or listening to this will be disappointed in the fact that he didn't get a chance. There was obviously Graham Potter as well. But why weren't they given a chance? Well, I think it's because of the touchline, and I think it's the presence that Tuchel gets. England have come so close getting into the final, but not being able to get anything more than that. And I think that's the reason that Thomas Tuchel has been appointed. I think that's why he's come in. And can he get them over the line? Well, first they have to qualify for the World Cup, of course, in America. And then after that, it remains to be seen. It also remains to be seen how he'll play. He does play a defensive brand sort of football. He does control the ball and he's a very good tactician, but he does like to play a bit more defensive. And if England fans, if that's what they were unhappy with Southgate, the fact that he was always defence first and then attack, it remains to be seen if people will be happy with Tuchel and what he can offer to the England squad. Also with the England squad is the fact that they have themselves haven't lost in 8 games, and it depends what we'll see from England. Depends what players will get given the chance. Will Morgan Rogers get given a chance for England after he impressed so much? Madueke. So what do people actually want to see? Do they want to see Palmer as the number 10? Do they want to see Foden as the number 10? Do they want to see Kane drop a bit deeper and Ollie Watkins play as he did so well in the Euros, scoring the winner against the Netherlands? What do people actually want to see? Where will Jude Bellingham play? Is it all resting on him? Does he play as a 10? Does he play as an 8? Where does Bellingham play in all this? So there's lots of questions for Tuchel to find out, and to be honest, I don't think we're going to find the answers out how Carsley sets up. I think Carsley will very much set up in his own way. I don't think it will have anything to do with the way Tuchel plays, and I think that is very much the way he will do things, and he'll go about things. I don't think we'll see quite what we did against Greece in the previous game, where we'll go all gung-ho and sort of lose a bit of formation, a bit of structure to the way that they play. But it will be interesting for sure to see how Gordon does, especially Gordon not doing so well so far this season. Hasn't quite hit the heights that he has in previous campaigns for Newcastle. He's obviously operated on the right hand side instead of the left hand side. There was a concern that he might actually be injured after he picked up a knock against Nottingham Forest, and Harvey Barnes came on to replace him and also scored. So it will be remain to see what happens. Lewis starts at left back, Rico Lewis, so that will be interesting to see how much of a chance Lewis Hall gets. And a defensive partnership of Konza and Gehi. It's very much a new look England team, and one that I don't think we'll see much of. Obviously Gibbs White also on the bench. Angel Gomez, a lot of people have been impressed by him and how much he's done at Lille since he came through the Man United academy. Didn't really do anything at United, then went to Lille and plays us more as a 6, keeps things ticking over. And there was that question, wasn't there, over the Euros of who was going to be that number 6? Was it with Rice? Was it going to be Kobbie Mainoo? Was it going to be Wharton? Who was going to play alongside Rice? I still don't think we've got the answer to that, and I think that's one of the biggest problems Tuchel has, is the fact that he needs to make sure who is going to partner Rice in that midfield. It'll be interesting to see over the next few weeks and months what Tuchel does decide to do. So time for a song now, and then we'll be back to talk about the other international teams, with Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland and Wales all featuring.
Tell me how it feels to know you'll never be lonely again. You spend the rest of your life knowing you will never be lonely again and again and again. So tell me how it feels to know that I'll never leave you alone. To know that you've got the freedom to choose. You will never be lonely again and again and again. So tell me how it feels. So tell me how it feels. Never lonely again and again and again. Never lonely again and again and again. Never lonely again and again and again. Who'd have thought we'd make it? Look at where we are. Is this what dreams are made of? Here and now, I'm crossing my heart. With my hands in the air, I'll make enough to always stay by your side. I will be there on your darkest night. I'm here till the day that I die. So tell me how it feels to know you'll never be lonely again. You spend the rest of your life knowing you will never be lonely again and again and again. So tell me how it feels. So tell me how it feels. So
And we're back to talk about the rest of the international football after that little song, Never Be Lonely. And it certainly has been a little bit lonely for Finland at the bottom. They are playing Ireland in the other group stage game. I believe that is also tonight in the fixtures, also in the group that they are in. And Finland are only on 1 point. The two teams met the last time, and Robbie Brady scored a last-minute winner for Ireland in a 2-1 win. Ireland have been a bit disappointing, but when you see their squad, you have to think, where are the points actually going to come from? And to be honest, it is a team where they have got a bit of quality, but it's nowhere near the quality that England have, and I think that showed when England beat them 3-0 very comprehensively at the Aviva Stadium with, actually, funnily enough, Rice and Grealish, who were part of the Ireland Academy, going on to score. So what does Ireland look like? Well, it looks like they're 6 points behind England. They only have one win, as I said, against Finland. And they've got a squad that contains a few players from the Premier League, the likes of Evan Ferguson. He's quite out of shape at the minute, and Smodic scoring as well in recent times for Ipswich. So they've got players that do have ability, but the fact they've got Tom Cannon, no disrespect, but it's Stoke City. It's not a team that is firing up the Championship or anything like that at the minute. Troy Parrott, who's also gone to Dutch and isn't featuring too many times. Casey McAteer, he's not featuring too many times for Leicester. So it is a bit of a Northern Ireland squad that is struggling a little bit. They have got Finner Zaz, who many Borough fans will be happy about. He's played very well in recent matches for Borough under the stewardship of Michael Carrick and what he's been doing at the Riverside. They have got talented players, but is it an international squad? I wouldn't say so. Against a Finland team that are very disappointing, you would fancy maybe Ireland to get all 3 points, and it does mean that Finland will be dropping down into the next division in the Nations League. It is a bit of a phony competition, really, the Nations League. I'm not too big a fan of it. It's a bit like friendlies, but with a bit more importance, but it doesn't add that much. It's not like your qualifiers where you know you're going to get into the Euros or you know you're going to get into the World Cup. It's not that quite a competition. Another team, so that is the the two home nations that are playing tonight. A team that I do want to get onto is England's Academy, and after all that problems of all them players leaving the England squad, and we've talked about it, the fact that the likes of Trent and Saka have all left the England squad, it does mean there's been a few call-ups. It means the fact that there have been a few players that have dropped out of the under-21s and gone up. The fact of Morgan Rogers, he's gone up into the first team, isn't starting tonight, but he is one of the players that interim boss Ben Futcher has got in charge of him. Ben Futcher, who is taking charge of these last two games before Lee Carsley comes and takes charge again, and then Tuchel will take charge of England. Joe Bellingham as well. A few Sunderland fans listening might be happy about Joe Bellingham's inclusion into the team. He's been one of their main players for Sunderland so far this season, and the fact that they don't really seem to be able to replace Joe Bellingham when he's not there. He's following obviously in the footsteps of his older brother Jude, who has gone on to massive things, being a Galactico at Real Madrid. He's not quite going to hit them heights, I don't think, Joe, but he has been definitely more of a player that seemed like he knows a bit more what he's doing. He's got a lot of talent, obviously. A lot of talent is there, but the fact that it doesn't seem like he's being able to do it on a regular basis until this season. And the fact that when Sunderland do play under Reggie Libri, he is one of the main players that connects that midfield and attack. And it's very much two teams on the 15th, so that's on Saturday, that go head to head, and it's two powerhouses of countries. It's Spain versus England, and actually England have got the upper hand. They were beaten in their last 8 games. They also beat them in the Euros last time out, so they have got the upper hand. They won 7-0 in their last game as well, securing qualification, and 6 different scorers, 2 of them defenders. So it's very much of a project at England that they are doing very well, and the fact that they've got to, it is just a friendly that's happening on Saturday. I do need to reiterate, it's nothing too massive happening. It is just a friendly between the under-21s of England and Spain, and then England will play Netherlands as well at the weekend. But who do they need to be careful of? Well, they need to be careful of Mateo Joseph. He scored many goals for Spain under 21s in their last few games, and he's been one of their star players. Done quite well at Leeds. I did expect a bit more from him, I have to say, so far this season, given the quality that he has. But it seems like he is getting there to that sort of potential that maybe Leeds might be able to sell him on for the fact, like what they have done with Somerville and they have done with Archie Gray as well. Archie Gray, who is also included into that England under-21 squad, and they definitely have talent there. They've got the likes of James Beadle, who's done really well at Sheffield Wednesday in net. Then they've got Charlie Cresswell. They've got Jack Hinchelwood, who did really well against Man City last weekend. And they've got Tendi Mengi as well, who, despite Luton not playing very well so far this season, has done quite well as well, being one of their better players. They've got Archie Gray in midfield, Bellingham in midfield, Lewis Miley, who people have maybe forgotten about after he had that breakthrough spell and people were thinking he played like a number 6, like what Michael Carrick did. He was very similar, but seems to have dropped out the team since. And then they've got the likes of Amari Hutchinson from Ipswich, George Murphy, who's also Liam Delap, who's also from Ipswich and been doing quite well, being one of probably the star players for Ipswich and probably looking one of the best strikers this season as well. And then you've got Jaden Philogene, who's had a few appearances for Aston Villa, nothing too major. And then you've got Raksaki, he's doing very well at Sheffield United. So it's a quality squad there. They have replaced Jared Branthwaite, Livramento, Morgan Rogers and James Trafford, who've all gone up to the senior squad. And Elliot Anderson is missing as well, who was a former mag, of course. And he is gone. Well, he is injured. He's been one of Forest's star midfielders so far this season with him and Ryan Yates. But he is missing out through injury. But you'd expect England to be, when it does come to the Euros, you'd expect them to be there or thereabouts. And maybe getting qualification and should get into the group stage and should get very far into the tournament as well. We don't just talk about football here, so we also talk about other sports that are happening within the Northeast. And Newcastle Eagles are entertaining the Surrey 89ers. Newcastle Eagles are 5th, the Surrey 89ers are 6th. This is basketball that we're talking about here. Both teams have got a win and have lost so far this season, and it's expected to be a close encounter. Both teams got wins last time out, losing their opening game though, and they both have a similar average points of 79 to 77 in Newcastle favour, and in total it is 157 to 162 in Surrey's favour. So if you go into that game this weekend, then should be a close one, and maybe Newcastle can get the win and get themselves up the table as well. Back to international football and to Northern Ireland this time, and they play Belarus on Saturday. And it's two of the best teams in this little group, still in the Nations League, and they meet in Belfast. And Northern Ireland have only conceded once from their first 4 games, around 7 points, a very impressive total. Just behind them though is Belarus, and they're on 6 points despite having only scored twice and have only conceded once. So that tells you how their sort of games, they don't have many goals in them, and that they are a stubborn team to sort of break down. And it should be a tough game for Northern Ireland if they can get themselves up. Again, when it comes to the actual qualification for the World Cup, I'm not sure they'll be there. I'm not sure they've got the quality to be there. A bit similar to Ireland, a bit like Scotland in respects as well, and probably Wales as well. England is probably their only home nation you'd expect to be there. I know Scotland did get into the Euros, but did they really do themselves justice? I'm not so sure about that. Maybe a few angry Scottish fans listening, but I'm sure your team will do a bit better maybe next time. Although you do need to get rid of Clark. Anyway, on to the Irish Northern Ireland squad, and got to talk about the quality that is there. Obviously with Conor Bradley in the defence. We've also got the likes of Paddy McNair, who used to be at Sunderland, used to be at Man United as well, the central defender. He's been quite pivotal. You got Pierce Charles in goal, and you also got Bailey Peacock Farrell in net as well, who has played for Birmingham City and is rotated at times. He's for Birmingham, that have been one of the standout teams in League One. You'd expect with the money they spent. They spent 12 million on their own on Jay Stansfield, so you'd expect Birmingham to be top. Well, they're not top. They are being replaced by Wickham at the moment. But he is one of their starting goalkeepers. Then in midfield, you've got the likes of some championship players like George Saville, Jordan Thompson. You might have seen them at Sunderland, or you might have seen them also at Middlesbrough so far this season. You've got Shea Charles in midfield as well, who is impressed for Sheffield Wednesday. He really impressed me in that Sheffield Steel derby against Sheffield United, where he was probably one of the best players on the pitch, and definitely Sheffield Wednesday's best player as well. Then you've also got the likes of Paul Smith, who hasn't QPR bottom of the league, but he has been one of their better players. You've got the likes of other players as well, like Ethan Galbraith, but he's a League One. He's a League One player. So if you've got League One players in your international squad, you are looking like you're going to be one of the weaker teams there. And I think that is the problem for Northern Ireland, trying to get that squad. They obviously got in the Euros in like 2016 when Ibrahimovic scored, and everyone was saying Will Griggs on fire. They haven't quite got back to that, that's for certain, and they do seem to be losing a lot of games. They haven't quite got another crop coming through that are as good as what were before. And the likes, you've got Dion Charles probably as your main striker, along with Jamie Reid. Nice for Jamie Reid, came through the Mansfield, well, played for Mansfield and was well regarded there, but did leave. You've got the likes of these players. If they're your main players, then it's going to have to be a bit of a team effort more than individual. And individual is definitely what teams like England have. Maybe Wales in the past with Aaron Ramsey and Gareth Bale have also had, but not Northern Ireland on this occasion. It's more of a team that has to group together. They've also got Trey Hume as well, who is really impressed at Sunderland, and I think he will get a move to the Premier League this season. He scored a really good goal last weekend against Coventry in that 2-2 draw where Sunderland threw away 2 points. And another team that seem to like to throw away games is Scotland. Scotland go into their game against Croatia. It's their penultimate game, and they've only got one. They're looking for their first win. It's been a miserable campaign for them. They've only had 1 point so far in the Nations League, a bit like they did in the Euros, where they conceded very, very late to Hungary, and that meant that Hungary progressed into the next stage. And they've sort of been that team that Scotland, where they almost there but not quite, and that is my problem with Steve Clarke. As I said before, made a bit of a comment about him not being the manager that I think Scotland should have, is because his team on paper, with the likes of Scott McTominay, is performing in Napoli really well, and the likes of them sort of players, but they haven't been able to. They've just been beaten by teams that aren't actually too much better than Scotland. I did say their individual quality, but I do think the likes of Andy Robertson and Scott McTominay, they can compete with the other nations in there. They play Croatia on Saturday, and Croatia, they're on 7 points, but they've got a really aging squad. They've got the likes of Modric still there, Perisic still there, and you might remember them in the group stage with Italy and Spain, where they did get second and they did knock Italy out as well. But Croatia haven't been pulling up any trees. They only got one more goal than they've conceded, and they've somehow got themselves on 7 points. They're 3 points behind Portugal. Their one defeat did come at Portugal when they lost 2-1. And it's a team where the golden generation has gone, and it is more of a case of an aging squad now, where they are looking like they are they're going to be tough to beat, because they always are, the Croats. But it does look like a team that, when they had the opportunity, when they were in the World Cup final in 2018, they lost to France 3-1. It does look like that sort of generation has gone, and they've not been able to recoup that. And some of the players, they had Kramaric, who scored the winner against Scotland last time out in a 2-1 win for Croatia, and that sort of player that has that bit of magic. Modric is getting on, as I said. They've got Perisic, who's also getting on, and they haven't really got some young players in return. Like England, they've had some players that go, but now they've got players that are young, like your Bellinghams and your Palmer and your Foden. But Croatia haven't seemed to quite got that, and they were pulling trees for really the size of the country and what footballing nation they are. They were doing really well, and they are still second in the Nations League. But I'm sure if you watch that game against Scotland, you'll agree with me that they are past their best performances and their best date as well. So that is Scotland covered, and then we'll go through the squad. But first, it's time for a song, and then a few adverts as well after that.
listening to Kearney FM, the new online community radio station for the North East. Kearney FM is currently recruiting. Head over to our website www.kfm-radio.co.uk to see the list of jobs we've got available. Do you live in Middlesbrough or would like to work in Middlesbrough? Well, Human Support Group are looking for care staff to go into people's homes. There are positions available for walkers and drivers. Contact Jan or Leslie on 01642 450 256. That's Human Support Group Middlesbrough.
It's not the travel, the challenge, the trek or the kit. It's not the adventure that makes joining the Army Reserve the best thing I ever did. It's the sense of belonging.
There you go, mate. Get us down, yeah?
Join the Army Reserve. Get paid to train in your spare time and find where you belong. Search Army Reserve Jobs.
So, guy! What is it called? I'm trying to sleep. Can we get out in the rain? Probably, yeah. So let's go out, Sergey. Okay. This shred of thunder is now the will of nature!
For great value, king-size comfort. Better get a Travelodge.
And see the Advert Mascot movie in cinemas soon.
Room design may vary by location, subject to availability. Terms and conditions apply. Visit travellodge.co.uk. Selected locations only.
Limited availability. Booking fee may apply.
Do you have a business and do you like freebies? Well, Kearney FM are offering businesses that are in the North East or that serve the North East free 6 months advertisement on the radio and on our website. All you have to do is visit www.kfm-radio.co.uk and apply, and there's more information.
When you're setting up a new nest, starting your own flock, or they just keep on growing, get the flexibility you need with VeryPay. Pay now, later, or pay over 3 months and pay no interest. Very, the online store for fashion, home and more. Search VeryPay. Ways to pay that work your way. VeryPay credit provided subject to status by Shop Direct Finance Company Limited, 18 plus, representative 44.9% APR variable.
Ocado's got your favourites, every last one. From steak to beefless burgers in your brioche bun, and all the M&S picky bits under the sun. Let summer come to you.
Get more choice than any other supermarket. Ocado.
Let summer come to you.
Geographical restrictions and delivery charges apply. Minimum spend £40. Full T's and C's at Ocado.com. Verify at info@ocadoretail.com.
Connie, this is the best night ever.
Yeah.
Such banging tunes. Oh, Connie, feel that bass.
Yeah, I can feel it, Trev.
What's this venue called again?
The Kitchen.
Gotta come here again.
DJ like a pro with our top-of-the-line Bose speakers. There's more to Argos. Argos.co.uk and in stores subject to availability.
'Cause I'm in the stars tonight, so watch me bring the fire, set the night light. Shoes on, get up in the morning, cup of milk, let's rock and roll. Kink out, kick the drum, rolling on like a rolling stone. Sing song when I'm walking home, jump up to the top of the brown. Ding dong, call me on my phone, nice tea and I'll get my ping pong. This is dead heavy, can't hear the bass, boom, I'm ready. Life is sweet as honey, yeah, this beach treat like money. This go all alone, I'm into that, I'm good to go. I'm diamond, you know I glow up. Hey, so let's go. 'Cause I'm
That was Dynamite, and you're listening to Kearney FM. This is the Sports Show, and I am Joe. And we'll talk more, well, if you're listening as well from the Northeast, then I'll be running through the National League and all the games that are going on there, including Hartlepool and Gateshead, and even Stockton Town if you support them. But I still just want to, just until we finish the international recap, and just go through the Scottish squad, and it will be of interest to listeners who support Middlesbrough, as Tommy Conway has been added into the squad. He starts in the attack along with Shay Adams. You might remember him from Southampton. He's now at Torino. And Lyndon Dykes of Birmingham as well. He used to be in the Championship. That is their strike force. So when I'm saying that they have quality up there, they do, but they don't lack the individual quality that other nations do. In midfield, they've got the likes of Ryan Christie. He's had a great season under Iraola. And Ben Doak as well. He was really impressed at Middlesbrough, probably being Middlesbrough's standout player, I'd say, so far this season. He's on loan from Liverpool and he's only 18 years of age. He's definitely one for the future. Billy Gilmore, who was also in the team at Napoli, who also have Scott McTominay, let's not forget, but McTominay is not involved in the squad. And then in defence, they have a bit of a poor defence on paper. The likes of Scott McKenna, who was at Nottingham Forest, the likes of Gran Hanley, who's at Norwich. And them sort of players they've still got Andy Robertson, but the fact that they've got John Sousa as well and Greg Taylor in Celtic as well, that means that them sort of players are not the sort of players that you expect maybe to keep a normal. If it was a golden generation Croatian team out, you probably wouldn't expect it. In net, they have the likes of Craig Gordon and Kieran Slicker as well, who used to be at Ipswich. So that's the Scotland team run through. Let's go through the National League and let's go through the games that are going on this weekend involving teams that aren't international teams and are non-league teams. So let's start with Hartlepool. They had a thrilling game last weekend. If you went to that at York City, they lost 5-3 in a game where Hartlepool, they are under a new manager now, and it was his first game improperly in charge after he took a few games of interim. He'd won and drew 2. It was his first defeat as boss. And Hartlepool are a team where they've really struggled so far this season. That's why they sacked their manager, and they were only 5 points above the relegation, so really struggling. And it was a York side that are top of the league. They got the likes of Tyree Sinclair and others around him as well, that they score goals, and they're probably going to be one of the favourites to go up and go into League 2. York City in League 2 was a thing that was in the past. But of recent, it hasn't. They've been avoiding relegation, similar to what Hartlepool. Let's not forget Hartlepool about 5 or 6 years ago were in League 2 themselves. So it shows you what a decline can happen, but it also shows you the way that things can improve. And I think that's what Hartlepool are trying to do. They did attack, and they can produce goals under Lenny Lawrence is the new manager, and he's the one who drives them forward. And I think they can score goals. If you can score 3 at the league leaders away from home, you're onto something. But if you concede 5 every game, then you're not, and you're going to end up near the bottom. Hartlepool this weekend, they face an Eastleigh team that haven't won in their last 5 games. They were going for a promotion push, but that seems to have sailed. And it's the fact that they're going to a pool side. They haven't won away since August the 24th. That was 6 matches ago, well, 6 away games ago. And they're trying to close the gap. The gap to the playoffs is only 2 points. So it shows that there isn't much of a gap if they do want to try and get into the playoffs. And Hartlepool themselves want to get into mid-table and away from that drop zone. Hartlepool have also conceded 21 goals so far this season. That's one of the most in the division. And they need to stop individual mistakes. That first mistake where the ball went long and the defender missed it and he was through on goal, it just cannot happen when you're at the bottom, and them sort of mistakes are the things that are going to push them towards the bottom. However, let's be positive and let's say that Hartlepool have got 4 points in their last 2 games, and they did beat a Sutton United team that were in League 2 last season 4-3. It was a thriller, and they do need to stop conceding goals, as I've said. But Hartlepool definitely feel like, I think they can get a result out of that. But having said that, Eastleigh will also fancy their chances of getting themselves back onto the right track. Now, another team that are in National League and around the North East that are doing well, had done well until 2 defeats in a row, was Gateshead. Gateshead are 4th Aldershot, and they face an Aldershot team that are 17th in the league. They're only 2 points above the relegation zone, and if we're talking about Hartlepool and the struggles they're having, then Aldershot are just the same. However, the same can't be said for Gateshead. Gateshead had been flying, and the Heed are trying to get a big response. They went to FC Fylde last week, and they were the better team. They had more of the ball, but that doesn't count for anything if you sit back and you get counted on like they did. And it's a bit of a bogey team for Gateshead FC Fylde. They've lost in the last 3-4 games there, and they seem to not be able to pick up points at AFC Fylde. Everyone has that bogey team, and for Gateshead it seems to be Fylde, even though that at the time they were only a couple points above the relegation zone themselves, a bit like Aldershot. So it's a bit like deja vu for Gateshead. But Gateshead have just brought in Owen Mason, who is a goalkeeper, after they've had a bit of a crisis there in net, and he's a very good goalkeeper at Mansfield Town, highly regarded, was in the Irish First Division and made 18 appearances the second season for Rexford. He stayed there 2 seasons, and he's a player that hasn't made a first team debut in a proper competition for Mansfield yet, but has also been in the squad and has also played in pre-season. So he's highly regarded by Nigel Clough, only 20 years of age as well, and he's made 2 appearances. Well, he's got 2 caps for the under-19s of Ireland as well, so highly regarded, and I think Gateshead are really going to enjoy watching him over the next couple of months. It's only a 2-month deal, and I think that's a position that's been well avoided with the fact that if you don't have a good goalkeeper in the National League, especially with such a physical league, they will get found out. But the Heed, they will be looking for a bounce back. They need to close that gap to York, which is now stretched to 8 points, and they need to rectify that against a team that, as I said, just above the relegation zone, and they've lost their last 4 games, have Aldershot in a row. So it will need to be much better from the Heed, but I think that they will be able to do it. The problem for them is that counter-attack. As I said, they control a lot of the ball against AFC Fylde. They could have easily ended up with a couple of goals, but the quality and the finishing needed to be better. I say 2 losses in a row because they also lost to Leeds Academy at the International Gateshead Stadium as well. So they're on the back of 2 defeats, but they will be looking to bounce back. A few more games as well that are in the lower divisions of the non-league, and that starts with Whitby. Whitby play Micklehove, who are 18th. If you're from Whitby, you will know what I'm talking about, your team, and the fact that you had a brilliant win last weekend in Nottinghamshire with a 4-3 win against Baseford, in which Walker scored a hat-trick, and he's only 24 years of age, and he does look a really good player. But the fact that they then midweek, and they did say it was a game too much for Whitby to try and do something, and they then lost 3-0 at Worksop, only a couple miles down the road from Baseford, but a really poor result, and they lost 3-0 in that one. They'll be wanting a much better response. Micklehove, where are they? Well, they're 18th. They're only a couple points above the relegation zone themselves. A lot of teams in the National League this weekend are playing just above the relegation zone, and Whitby will be looking to improve upon what was a really good away win, but it is the fact that it's that cliche that's always in football: the first goal matters, and it's the biggest one, and that is very important and is true about this as well, because they've conceded 5 in their last 5 games, have Micklehove first, and they're without a clean sheet in 5 as well. So you have to think, if Whitby are able to get themselves in and ahead, then they will be able to go on and get all 3 points. Although Whitby have not been great defensively, and that will be a problem for them, but I expect them also, similar to Gateshead, it's a nice home game against a team that's struggling. You'd expect to get all 3 points. Now, it's not just the league that's happening this weekend, it's also the FA Trophy, and Stockton Town are playing Scarborough. The Anchors go into the weekend, have lost their last 2 after they'd won 5 in a row, and there have been teams in and around them playoff places that are now breathing down the necks. They are 4th Stockton, but it's an FA Trophy game, and Scarborough are in the same division as Spennymoor and South Shields. We'll come on to their game in a bit, so a couple divisions above. And can Stockton do something? Well, they had a home defeat to Ashton 2 weekends ago, then they lost to Baseford as well. It made it a bit of a miserable week, where they've now only won they had won 5 in a row and confidence was high. So maybe a different competition is what Stockton need, and maybe that is exactly. And could they cause an upset? Well, they're good at home, apart from that defeat against Ashford, and it will be a game where they can go to a Scarborough team that are only sitting a few points above the relegation zone themselves. They're only sitting 3 points above the relegation zone, and that means that it could be a chance for a bit of an upset, but also a chance for both teams to go in a competition where in the league they haven't fared too well. Now, a bit of a grudge match in the FA Trophy as well, involving 2 local teams, is Spennymoor versus South Shields. It's a meeting of 2 local teams. There's only 2 points in the league between them, and that is Spennymoor, who are just above South Shields. They are actually very similar teams, with the fact that they are on so many points and they've won similar amount of games. But what is not similar is the fact that Spennymoor have only conceded 19 goals, whereas South Shields has conceded 27. That's an 8 difference. And Spennymoor have also gained a point against Curzon and Ashton last weekend, and they got a nice 3-2 win against runaway leaders Scunthorpe United. You might remember them in League 2 only more than a couple seasons ago, maybe 4 or 5 seasons ago now, but they were a League 2 club. They've dropped all the way down, and they did lose to Spennymoor. So that is the National League covered. We're on to the women's football, and we'll have to start with Durham, who play London City. Durham, who are 3rd, London City, who are 2nd. They're both on 16 points after 8 matches played, and Durham face a potentially poignant weekend as they face a team that are so close to win the league, and it's actually very close in the league as well. There's 4 teams on 14 points and only 3 behind. And also England have just scored against Greece, as I got the notification. Ollie Watkins has opened the scoring. So just on to England quickly. Ollie Watkins has scored, Madueke assist, and maybe that shows that Watkins could he take Kane's role? I wouldn't think so, but he's definitely an option for England. Anyway, back onto the women's football, and Durham needed what was a late goal away at Southampton. It was a poor performance as well, where they weren't doing too well, and their opponents have scored 4 in their last 5 as well, so they do know how to score, Durham City, but they are winless. They have not got a clean sheet in their last 3 against Durham, so maybe Durham have the upper hand, and they certainly have the home advantage as well. Sunderland, who only sit 3 points behind them, they are at Sheffield United. Sheffield United, who are only on 4 points themselves, and they've both played. Sunderland have played 9 games, whereas Sheffield have played 8. And the Black Cats go into Sunday's clash in confident mood after edging out Blackburn with a 2-1 win. They didn't play too well, and the goal they conceded was quite a sloppy one from a long free kick. But the hosts are without a clean sheet in their last 8 against the Wearsiders, and they conceded first in 8 of their last 10 as well. So that shows you what sort of team Sheffield United are, and you'd expect Sunderland to pick up all 3 points and maybe continue what has been a good last 3 or 4 games for them and make it 4 wins in a row. The same can't be said for Newcastle, who came to defeat in Bristol when they lost 2-0 away, and Bristol had a player sent off as well. They had quite a few shots, Newcastle, but without really testing the goalkeeper. They only had 0.25 XG, which tells you there's a bit of the story for them. The Toon Army, they face a difficult encounter against the Southampton team that, as Durham found out, are a difficult team to beat, and they're looking for a bounce back where they rarely threatened. And both, as I said, 4 teams are all on 14 points, so this is a great chance for the Toon to maybe get something back. They did lose to Sunderland in that grudge match there, but they did win against Durham. So would you rather beat Durham, or would you rather lose to Sunderland? I'm sure it would probably be Durham that you'd lose to rather than Sunderland, given the rivalry between the 2 teams, but I'm not so sure if it's the same for women's football or not. But if you're a Newcastle fan, then you'll be hoping for a bounce back there, and even though you're in 7th and Southampton are in 4th, the fact that there's basically no points between you means that you'll be able to make up the ground. Another game that will be going on this weekend is Catalonia, and they're in 8th. They're playing Newcastle, and this is rugby we're talking about now. And there's only been 2 games played, but Catalonia are yet to get a point, and Newcastle have got 2 points, which means they've got a win and a loss, and that will be a game that happens on Sunday. Another game that happens on Sunday is Whitley Warriors. They'll be playing the Deeside Dragons, and that's in the ice hockey. Whitley Warriors, who are on 13 points. Deeside Dragons, who are on 12 points, and there's been 6 matches played of that, so all quite close at the top of the ice hockey. With the other game also being Billingham Stars, and they entertain Widnes Wild. This one's a bit of a difference in quality, as Billingham are on 18 points and Widnes Wild are yet to pick up a point, and that's 7 games that Billingham have played and 6 for Widnes. That's the ice hockey that's happening around the area. Other shouts out also for things that are happening around the area is the football scouting North East Trials. There's 15 plus professional scouts that are going to be at the Killingworth FC in Newcastle, and that's aged between 13 and 16. And also the Proskate 2024 battle for the Golden Tash, and that's hosted at Middlesbrough Sports Village on Saturday, and that will be that's 6 teams of 8 skaters completely mixed for that. And also just been given to me that the Israel national football team have been forced to train in secret ahead of their match against France. Constant armed guards are in place at their undisclosed hotel and accompanied the players and staff to their training site on Tuesday. Authorities demanded the location be kept under wraps and all media activities were cancelled. Israeli security forces, including agents from the Mossad intelligence agency, will be inside the stadium on Thursday during the game versus France. So if you're going to that game, then just make sure about that was happening. I didn't know that was happening, and it's a bit scary what can be happening as well. So that is all the National League and the local sport. Just go through a few of the big games that's happening this weekend in the EFL. As I always like to go through the EFL, it's a competition where a lot of League One clubs aren't playing because they've got a lot of players on international duty now, and that's what happens. Even though there are a few games, I've corrected, there are a few games in League One still. There seems to be 4 games, and one of them is Exeter versus Lincoln. That was going to be a clash at the top, but it's now Lincoln who are 5th and Exeter who are 11th. Exeter were in a brilliant run of form but under Gary Caldwell until they've lost a few in a row. Bristol Rovers, they face Crawley, with Bristol Rovers in 16th and Crawley just in the relegation zone on 12 points. Leyton Orient just above them on 14, so a few, and they've obviously lost their manager to MK Dons as well, Liam Lindsay, so Crawley maybe want to get a result there against the Bristol Rovers team, who are actually very inconsistent. You might remember them with their 7-0 win when they got promoted to League One under Joey Barton and all the controversy that followed them there. They've been a club since that have gone up and down, as you would expect, given how Joey Barton does rule to be fair, Joey Barton rules himself and how he conducts himself, and they've been on a bit of a roller coaster since, but they will be wanting to keep their League One status, and that's an important game against a Crawley team that you would expect to pick 3 points up against, given the amount of players they lost in the summer especially, and the fact they lost their main manager as well. Cambridge, they face Barnsley. Barnsley, who were actually on a bit of a better run. They had some difficult results and were languishing towards 14th and 15th, but they seem to have picked it up slightly with a nice 2-0 win at home to Rotherham in their last game. And they face a Cambridge side who, under Gary Monkey, likes to play out from the back. Surprisingly, actually likes to play out from the back. And if you've got Cambridge players and try and play out from the back with no disrespect, then the rewards aren't as big as if you're a Man City player and trying to play out from the back. It doesn't have the same thing, and that shows with the amount of points. They're only on 10 points so far this season. They actually hadn't got a win in their first 8 games as well, so it shows you the fact that Cambridge are a bit of a difficult side. They also conceded 6 to Peterborough, but they were on a run of 5 wins in a row in all competitions. One of them was in the FA Cup, one of them in the EFL Trophy, but they had got 3 wins in a row in the league, but losing 6-1 at your local neighbours Peterborough shows you the fact that really maybe it wasn't all rosy at Cambridge. Just touching on League 2 quickly as well, because there's a full fixture list in League 2 apart from Tranmere and the Walsall game, and that is Notts County going to Crewe. That's probably the standout tie this weekend, and that's 3rd versus 5th. Notts County, who just got a draw away at Doncaster 1-1, and Crewe, who are also going well of things of late. They lost the playoff final to Crawley Town, and that is probably the standout fixture in League 2 for the weekend. So as I say, a bit of a different show this weekend because there isn't the EFL going on as much as the games. And Middlesbrough, Sunderland, Newcastle, you've all got a week off, either from enjoying watching your team or dismaying watching your team. But that is the preview show for this week. We'll be back, as I say, not on Monday because I'll be at my graduation, but it'll have to be the next Thursday when same time, and we'll have a full list of EFL action to go through. And also watch out for the website for all the articles that I'll be putting on. I'll be putting previews on for most of the games this weekend, and I'll also be putting results on Tuesday, not on Monday but on Tuesday, for all of the action, and probably put one on for the national teams as well if you're an Irish, Welsh or Scottish fan as well. So thanks for joining me, thanks for being on Kearney FM, and we'll see you next week.